Welcome to the Croft circuit here in Yorkshire, which will be our home for the weekend as the British GT Championship rolls into town. Now, the GT2 class are off racing at Magny-Cours in France, so it's the turn of the GT3 class to take centre stage and provide us with all the action.
Last time out at Donington Park, it was the Porsche of Dimitri Devericos and Piers Maserati that was the class of the field.
I'm really happy. It was a really difficult weekend for us. We had a fire on Thursday. We were really happy to get a win, which was pretty unexpected actually. We knew we were very quick, but we were so unreliable for the start of the weekend. But the boys pulled it together and we did a fantastic job.
They certainly didn't have it all their own way. It looked like a win was on for Hector Lester and Alan Simonson in their Ferrari until they hit problems.
Hector did a perfect first stint. I took the car over in 6th place and got it up to the lead with about 10-15 seconds down to the second car, which was the Tech 9 Porsche. And then the car started cutting out more and more, lost more time. It was a problem with the ignition. So there you go. I mean, you can't win all the races. It was unfortunate we won for a win, but there you go.
That's Steve Warburton, and the wheels gone mad.
Steve Warburton in the Porsche was in trouble when he found himself with only 3 wheels on his wagon.
It's one of those situations where I've been thinking about finishing the race. We only had 11 minutes to go. And I've been on the radio saying everything's going to be fine. Well done, boys. We're going to finish this. As soon as I said that...
That's Steve Warburton!
As soon as the rear wheel does that, it feels like about 300 mile an hour. And it all happened with me in slow motion. And in fact, the funny thing was, on the radio, I came to a halt and I just sat there and I thought, well, yeah, it's broken. And apparently the first thing I said on the radio was, do you want me to drive it back to the pits? And they went, no, you joker.
So what is a GT3 car? Well, in the British GT Championship, they're predominantly Ferrari 360s and Porsche 911s, although the variety is greater than that in the GT2 field with the Morgans and the BMWs. The main differences between the two cars, there's slight aerodynamic differences with the rear wing and the front splitter, but the cars run predominantly road car-based bodywork. You won't see the 100mm wheel arch extensions like you do on the GT2 cars. And power-wise, the GT3 version of this Ferrari 360 develops about 375 brake horsepower, whereas its bigger brother, the GT2, develops around 450. But still, with 370 brake horsepower, still an awful lot of power to handle around Croft.
GT racing can be very expensive and not all teams have big budgets, but that doesn't stop them trying.
Our budget is similar to the budgets we used to run in Tuscans, and although there's 2 drivers, we still stick to similar budgets because, I mean, effectively we can't afford the kit that a lot of these people have in the pit lane, and our car is one up on a standard road car.
So what are you hoping for from this race?
A finish. But plain and simple, if we can finish, we'd be more than happy, and if we've got a Porsche behind us when we do, even better.
Round 2 happened yesterday afternoon, so here's Ben to bring us up to date.
Dimitri Devericos started the Tech 9 Porsche from pole, while Chris Doxon started his first British GT race of the year from outside front row. The Team Tiger Marcos and Steve Warburton's Porsche both started quickly from row 2, and the first couple of corners were virtually clean. Jamie Smythe holding on to his Ferrari after attack from Fred Moss. The battle for third proved a little too close for comfort for John Finnemore in the Marcos.
Just going to the back of the Porsche. Had a bit of damage on the front, just went to the back of the Porsche, just stood on the brakes mid-corner.
But at least he was still running quickly, while Alex Mortimer in the Quaife RPM car was in trouble. The Donington pole-winning Porsche would finish down in 13th. Also in trouble was Jamie Smythe, who lost his ABS system and then lost his Ferrari. As rain began to fall, there were others taking to the sidelines. The Rory Fordyce Jason Coffin car went off, and so did their track speed teammates, not about to be outdone. And just when it looked as though Andy Britnell would take a podium finish, he undid all of his own and Chris Stockton's work with this spin at Tower. So, victory went for the second time in a row to Piers Maserati and Dimitri Devericos, while Alan Simonson drove superbly to bring the United Christian Broadcasters Ferrari into second place. And it was a beautifully consistent drive from Marco Attard and Nick Adams to earn them third in the Ferrari.
Very happy with team also, make very good work. PS make very good work also, and I think we have a very good result.
Well, this morning it was bright sunshine, but the heavens have just opened here at Croft and it's throwing it down and it's very, very cold. Now, the British GT race number 2 about to get underway. The same car takes pole position. It's the same car, but a different driver, Piers Maserati, takes to the wheel. It'll be tough going into that first corner. Here's Ben.
Thank you, Diana. Well, Piers took pole in the dry session by just 200ths from Alan Simonson's Ferrari, and there's some healthy rivalry between the two of them. The Team Tiger Marcos is third with Chris Baton at the wheel, and then it's Oliver Bryant driving solo in the Morgan, followed up by Ian Flux starting the JMH Ferrari from 5th. Andy Britnell is 6th on the grid. Then it's Nick Adams in the Damax Ferrari, followed by Steve Wood in the Eurotech Porsche, number 99. 20 cars on the grid for this first GT3 only event at Croft. Maserati and De Vericos are yet to be beaten, but conditions are going to be very tricky and tyre choice could prove to be crucial. Now, we know that some cars have gone out there on intermediate tyres, some are on wet tyres. Rob Buff, you've experienced these sort of conditions. Which do you reckon are going to be best now?
It's really horrible conditions out there, Ben. You can see the rain falling. And a few moments ago, I thought Inters might have been the way to go, the intermediate tyre being good in drying conditions, but with the rain coming down even harder now, wets could be the correct choice.
Well, let's see what happens. They're lining up ready for the start, waiting for the start signal at the gantry. The lights go out, and we're racing. We're on board with Chris Baton in the Marcos. Alan Simonson in the Ferrari, trying to go down the outside into the first corner here. Oh, but he's sideways. He's out of control, or is he? Oh, that's wonderful control, but he's still sliding. He can't stop it sliding, and he's almost in the tyre barrier. Wow, fantastic control. He did lose it, but Rob, how did he get it back?
Purely by just balancing the throttle and applying a lot of opposite lock, Ben. You could even see that Piers went off at the first corner there, so we lost the front row of the grid at the first corner.
So dramatic stuff straight away, and Piers Maserati has dropped back. Who's leading? It's the Marcos. It is Chris Baton in the Team Tiger Marcos with a little bit of an advantage over Oliver Bryant in the Morgan, then Piers Maserati chased by Andy Britnell, and the rest of them coming through in these very murky conditions. There's Simonson, he's got no grip at all. I think they're on intermediates on that Ferrari, and you can see the difference it makes. The Marcos here on full wet, so is the Morgan, so is the Tech 9 Porsche, but the Ferrari of Alan Simonson started on intermediates, so did one or two of the other cars as well, and you can just see there's a lot of spray out there. Oh, that's Fluxy! Fluxy's lost it! Oh, he's spinning like a top down there, trying to get it back together. And look at that, he's managed to avoid everybody and the barriers, and he's rejoining the fray.
Loads of water down there at Barcroft, Ben, and I know Fluxy started on intermediates, so no, wets were definitely the way to go. On board now with Westwood, who's really pushing hard from the back of the grid, so he's muscling his way past the Ferraris, left, right and centre now.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how much progress he can make. They had an incident in qualifying and they didn't set a time for this second race. They also had problems with that car in the first race over the weekend. I just hope that they've got that sorted out now. And there he is in the number 30 black Porsche. Just caught a glimpse of him. Now look at this challenge for the lead. The Morgan on the inside of the Marcos, and I think he's through. Young 19-year-old Oliver Bryant has got past Chris Baton and taken over the lead of this race. Maserati's in third, Andy Britnell in fourth.
Fantastic to see a bit of variety at the front of the field as well. Morgan from Marcos leading the Porsches and Ferraris. So great stuff from Oliver Bryant to make the lead at lap 2 there.
Oh, into the pits has come Ian Flux, and I think he's decided that those intermediate tyres are just not up to the job in these conditions.
Yeah, that's an expensive piece of equipment he's driving, and a wise decision there from Flux. It'll be interesting to see how he goes on the wets once he's changed. And on board, watching his slide, oh, just a passenger, just aquaplaning round at Barcroft, and round, and I suppose you're doing, what, over 100 miles an hour on the way in, even in the wet conditions.
Well, he stayed out of trouble somehow. I think that might have been a little more luck than judgment, even with his great experience, but the car's in one piece. Now, we're riding on board here with Chris Baton, same sort of section. Oh, and he's lost it too! Back end's gone completely, and he goes round, he spins to the inside, oh, and across the track, and somehow they didn't hit him.
really lucky. Oh, and the Porsche getting sideways there. It's such a difficult section of track as they come out of Barcroft into Sunny Inn. The cars are braking, they're really loaded up, and it's so easy for the back end of the car to slide. And coming down into the left-hander into the complex, there's the motor-based car just pushing ahead of the marker, so he's lost another place, Ben.
Yeah, that's Andy Britnell. There he is, just nipping through. And Andy was so disappointed after that spin in race one. They were on for a good result, and he's fired up to do well. There's Fluxy going back out on full wets now. There we see Jan Persson in the Hawthorne Motorsport BMW, and you can just catch a glimpse of Alan Simonson in that number 21 Ferrari. Remember, he started on the front row, he just kept it out of the tyres, and now he's trying to move up through the field, but I think he's still struggling on the intermediates. Meanwhile, the leader, Oliver Bryant in the Morgan, coming up to lap the other BMW. Fluxy's rejoined in amongst the leaders. There's Maserati second, Britnell third, and then coming through, that is Miles Hulford in the car number 16. He was only 16 years old at the start of this season, Miles. He turned 17 just a couple of weeks ago, but what a fantastic job he's doing here.
Yeah, I think I'm right in thinking, Ben, that was the car that was crashed yesterday.
That's right, indeed. Jamie took it off, and Miles didn't even get to drive it yesterday. Now, we're on board with Piers Maserati, and he seems to be struggling in these conditions a bit. Now, they are on wet tyres on the Tech 9 Porsche, but he's being very tentative, isn't he?
Yeah, I'd imagine that car, Ben's on a dry setup. You see he's struggling coming out the corners, and also, I know it's obvious, but the windscreen is steaming up very, very badly there, and you can see he's stuck behind the BMW, which really he should be able to breeze past.
He's got the inside line now, should be able to go through safely, but Maserati very, very closely followed by Andy Britnell and Miles Hulford. It's quite a battle up front, but at the moment, it's Oliver Bryant who leads in the Morgan. Welcome back to Croft. Very tricky conditions for the second race of the weekend in the GT3 class. The race being led by the Morgan of Oliver Bryant. The Tech 9 Porsche running second. Good battle going on for sixth place between Nick Adams and Jason Coffin in car number 25. Forced to go around the outside there. Whether he can get a run into the hairpin, I don't think so. And Colin Broster in the yellow Porsche immediately behind them too. So some good dices going on around the field, although Oliver Bryant out in front at the moment in the Morgan doing a fantastic job. And look at Julian Westwood, car number 30. He started at the back and now he's getting into the top six.
So difficult out there for the cars in the middle of the pack as well, Ben, with the spray being so thick. Croft's quite a narrow circuit, and this spray being so dense is making it really difficult for the cars to make any sort of decisions on an overtaking manoeuvre as they come through the sort of twisty sections of the circuit.
Well, I think Julian Westwood is thoroughly enjoying himself here in 30. Oh, a little bit slow out of the chicane there. Seemed to have a little mishap. It was almost as if missed a gear or there was a misfire or something, because it suddenly slowed in a slightly strange area. Meanwhile, the Marcos is under attack here from Nick Adams. Adams through on the inside at Tower Corner. Good clean manoeuvre that, and he better watch out because that other Porsche of Jason Coffin's right there. In fact, he's gone through as well.
Yep, cleanly through on the way into the Jim Clark S's, and now we're looking at Piers being, again, put under a lot of pressure by Andy Britnell coming into Sunny Inn.
Miles Hulford still running well in the Ferrari as the other... Oh, and he's lost it! That's Chris Baton off in the Marcos. Oh, and it's surely into the tyre, spins him around. And that's a great shame. This car's been running up front throughout this race. And Julian Westwood was right behind him, but I don't think there was contact between them. I think that was just a little mistake there from Chris Baton.
Yeah, standard racing driver response there from Chris Baton. Almost a carbon copy of Fluxy's accident before, where he just lost it on the way out of Barcroft into Sunny Inn. So really difficult conditions, and it looks like he's getting the car back underway now and trying to get back to the pits.
Yeah, let's hope that not too much damage has been done, but it did seem to go into those tyres pretty fast. Fast section of track, of course. I wonder what he's got to say for himself.
I've come off, John, and hit the barrier. I'm mobile again, but what damage I've done, I don't know. I'm going to come in. OK, come in, we'll have a look. I think I've completely smashed the back of the car, so I think we're out of it, sorry.
Well, I think actually they've got away with it remarkably lightly. The rear wing is deranged, but look at the rest of it. It looks fairly pristine.
Yeah, it's amazing what the mechanics in the pits can do. Oh, back on board with Piers, and yeah, being put under a huge amount of pressure and being passed by the motor-based car again.
So Andy Britnell's gone into second place. Third place now for Piers Maserati, struggling a little bit in these conditions. And Miles Hulford still holding on to fourth position just behind, but it's so easy to get it wrong and we've seen several people do that. The Marcos, of course, now heading into the pit lane after its spin at this part.
Keep coming right down the end there. Where's damage? Which side?
Rear end, total rear end. I can see the wings all munched.
Stay in it, stay in it, stay in it, stay in it.
Little technical term there, Rob. All munched.
Winged or munched,
Go, go, go. Just go.
Oh, and the proof there that it's not too bad at all. They've had a look and sent him on his way. Let's take another look at how it worked from on board.
So coming into Croft, passes the clipping point and the back end just starts to slide, and as soon as you're on the grass at those sort of speeds, he's a passenger, and bang into the barriers backwards and round a couple of times, but very little damage. I'm surprised that the Marcos hasn't suffered more bodywork damage as well, Ben.
Well, Piers Maserati, look at him. He's holding up a queue of cars now. Everybody trying to get past him for third place. Nick Adams in the middle of that pack. And the one immediately behind Piers Maserati is the youngster, Miles Holford, who so far so good, doing a great job, and just launching himself out of the slipstream there was Julian Westwood, and Westwood actually just getting past Jason Coffin on the approach into Tower Corner, and Westwood's the one to watch. He is the fastest of this group on track at the moment.
He went so well at Donington. It's great to see him in his element here again, pushing really hard, cutting through the middle order, Ben.
Yeah, number 30, keep an eye on him. He looks as though he might get past Nick Adams here on the inside. No. Very tight at the apex, and it's encouraged Nick Adams to get past Piers Maserati. Maserati has no response. He can't do anything. Couldn't turn in, and Westwood goes past as well. Here's Alan Simonson, his fellow front row man, still struggling on those intermediate tyres, and you can see he's got no grip whatsoever. So he's really out of it. Piers Maserati, though, doing his best not to drop too many places, and perhaps they'll go for different tyres on the pit stops when Dimitri takes over.
Yeah, they're going to have to look at making a change, because Piers is a good, consistent driver, and you can see he's really struggling now, even as the conditions are just starting to improve ever so slightly.
Yeah, there's a little less rain falling, still a lot of spray being kicked up by the cars. There is the team boss of Piers Maserati's car, Phil Hindley, no mean racer himself, and he must be very frustrated to see that car slipping backwards.
Absolutely, we saw Phil there talking to his fellow team members about making a change at the pit stop, so we'll have to watch carefully to see if it's a setup change or a change in tyres or wing angle perhaps that can help them for the second half.
Yeah, they're really struggling. Even though they're on those wet tyres, they're not struggling as much as those who went out on intermediates, but they just can't seem to get the car to handle to their liking at the moment. So there's Miles Holford. And a spin there, and that is Colin Broster, who's gone off in the number 24 car, hopefully without damage done. He rejoins. Tyres in the pit lane. Some teams surely will make changes, particularly, I would think, the Ferrari of Alan Simonson. Hector Lester will take that car over in a while. Other teams also thinking, what are we going to do for the second half? Saw Mike Jordan there. Mike usually racing, of course, in the British GT races, but drives a GT2 car. This weekend it's GT3 only, so he can watch and manage from the pit lane. Leaders coming through then, and we ride on board with Piers Maserati. Let's see how it's going for him.
Coming into Clairvaux as he comes over the wall. Another big moment. See, the car's a real nightmare over the standing water, so they're going to have to do something.
Yeah, it's proving to be pretty difficult for him. David Ashburn there with him and almost getting up the inside of him before they turn into the chicane. It's an unusual place to try and challenge.
Yeah, very, very close to contact there. Did a very good job not to collide with each other.
Now I wonder if Ashburn's going to have the run down towards Tower. Watch out for a Porsche arriving on the right-hand side. Has he gone for it? We're going in fairly wide, and I'm not sure. No, Ashburn's not quite there. So Maserati able to fend him off for the moment.
Yeah, quick glance in his mirror, though, as he came out of the corner, so he's clearly there or thereabouts. Piers being put under a lot of pressure as he comes through the Jim Clark S's, and just on the brink of running wide there again, and coming into Croft now. This is where he struggled on previous laps.
He's working very, very hard behind the wheel, but remember, Piers Maserati and Dimitri Deverikos have won both races in the championship so far this year. Now we're on board with Ian Flux. The different sound of the Ferrari, distinctive, quite different to the Porsche.
Yeah, Fluxy really doing a good job now. He's unlapped himself from the leaders. He's passed the Morgan in the lead, and he's easily the quickest car on the track now. Professional driver and a fantastic piece of equipment, doing a great job.
Let's just watch him here. Feathering the throttle a bit, and then coming out of the chicane, he'll be able to get on it a bit harder. The race leader coming through, Oliver Bryant, and I'm absolutely astonished, really, to see how well Oliver's driving in this race, because although Andy Britton's got a little closer, Bryant has controlled this race from the beginning so far. He's only 19 years old. He's in his first season of British GT. He has raced some wonderful historic cars over the last few years, but this is still a mark that the young man has got a lot of talent. There's a battle for second in class. Almost saw Miles Holford going through, and Nick Adams trying to get past the BMW and join that battle as well.
Fantastic racing here from all the GT3 cars. That group of 4 or 5 cars have been nose to tail now for most of the race, Ben, so fantastic. Oh, on board with Westwood again, you can see he can see nothing. Oh, that looks dreadful.
It just makes you realise how difficult it is in these conditions. And look at that, they were almost touching each other. The BMW gets out of the way. Nick Adams just staying in front in that particular group. He's holding on to 4th place, but not by very much at all. Right behind him is Jason Coffin, and here comes Julian Westwood. Is he going to make a lunge for it? No, he decides against it, but couldn't be much closer to the back of that number 25 car, could he?
Do you think he even saw the BMW as he came through Barcroft?
I've no idea. With the misting that's going on his windscreen, it looks very difficult. There's Oliver Bryant, though. You know, he's so smooth out of that hairpin every time. He's not sideways at all. He's just absolutely straight. He gets the power on cleanly, and that's why he's staying out in front. And the man who owns that car, the Morgan, Keith Arler's not able to race it this weekend, but he would be so pleased if he could only see what's going on. Look how close Miles Holford, another youngster, is to the back of Andy Britnell. It's giving away a few years here, is Andy Britnell, but he's holding on to second.
Absolutely. Oh, and Jason Coffin, they're having a spin in the Porsche, and that's a strange place, Ben. It looks like he's almost in the braking area for Clairvaux, the first corner. Perhaps he just caught the side of the track as he's making an overtaking manoeuvre, perhaps. So on board with Westwood, we can see that he was running very close to Jason Coffin, and he's spun in a straight line on the run down to Clairvaux, and has he made contact with the barriers? I don't know. Join us after the break.
We're almost a third of the way into the race here at Croft for the British GT3 Cup contenders. Steve Warburton waiting to take over his Porsche, but the race leader is still Oliver Bryant in the Morgan, just flashing through the picture. Andy Britnell in car 23 is running in 2nd place. He's in a fairly clear second, and it will be Chris Stockton who'll take over that car. Very fast here at Croft, and in 3rd place at the moment is Miles Holford in the red Ferrari. Then it's Nick Adams in the black Ferrari, being chased by Julian Westwood. Into the pits comes the Bill Barrett run Porsche, and that is Steve Warburton about to take over now. Peter Morris getting out, and there's no desperate rush because there's a minimum amount of time they have to sit in the pits, so it's not as if the faster changeover gets them out on circuit more quickly. We're riding back on board once again with Julian Westwood. A little bit more we can see through on that screen, but is there a chance for him to get past Nick Adams? No space on the run into the first corner.
The visibility, yes, Ben, looking slightly better now as the rain's getting less and less. The circuit's starting to dry, and as we see the cars coming into the complex, they're almost a dry line coming now.
Peter Osborne in the number 14 Porsche. That's a new addition to the field this weekend, the R&D Automotive Innovate Porsche. Just getting past at the BMW Z3 Coupe. A lot of work still going on those BMWs. Brilliant to see them out in the championship, but they know that there's some work to do to make them fully competitive. They are making progress. Meanwhile, Andy Britnell still trying to close up with race leader Oliver Bryant, and Nick Adams in the black Ferrari, really putting the youngster Miles Holford under increasing pressure here, with Julian Westwood right behind. So Miles Holford's got 2 extremely experienced and hard racers right behind him, but for the moment he's fending them off.
I wonder if young Miles knows that Nick Adams was once world sports car champion and Julian Westwood raced Formula 3000. He probably doesn't, but no, he's doing a great job, really good.
Into the pits comes the Team Tiger Marcos. Chris Baton jumping out, John Finnemore about to take over. Remember, this was the car that hit the tyre wall over at Barcroft earlier on. It deranged the rear wing, but apart from that, it's actually been going very well. But there's the man going best of all. It is the Morgan of Oliver Bryant. He's led the whole of this first stint. Now, he hasn't got a driver to take over. He's going to have to make a pit stop and then just sit in the pits, basically, and wait for his turn to go back out. But no one will take that Morgan over, and at least he'll know the conditions better than anyone else taking over a car from their co-driver. You could just see the Porsche rejoining right into the battle there that's going on for 3rd place, but thankfully keeping well out of the way. Out of his car is Phil Quaife. That means that Alex Mortimer has taken over in the 96 machine, but oh, there was a problem there. A bit of a I don't know if it was a slow getaway. They waved him out. and then he just got going. They've had a few little problems this weekend, so they'll be hoping next time is better. Here comes Nick Adams under pressure in the 15 car from Julian Westwood in the number 30 car. Did Westwood cut back? Yes, he did. And Julian Westwood, therefore, has taken the place, I think. But the Ferrari's still on the inside for the left-hander. He has done it. Westwood's
awesome
through.
stuff. Really, really good from Julian Westwood. That, and the Ferrari running. Oh, and it's pulled his rear bumper off. The standing water's grabbed the rear bumper there as he's come out of the Jim Clark S's and just taken it clean off. And Diana's in the pits.
Chris, that stint was going really well, but a bit of a spin brought you into the pits.
Yeah, the car just aquaplaned into sunny one and we hit a tyre wall, did some rear damage, so we had to come in just to make sure the car was okay before we continue.
Is the car going to hold up?
Yeah, car will hold together, but we struggle in these conditions. Its age really shows in these conditions, but there we go.
On board here with Julian Westwood, and now he is trying to get past Miles Halford. Oh, ho, ho, ho. Very sideways out of the hairpin.
Big old slide under the power there. The Porsche's traditionally very strong coming out of the corners with the engine being over the rear wheels, and he's having a good look down. Is he coming into Clairvaux? No, just happy to sit back there now.
Well, it's getting very tight between these two now. You wonder how much Miles Halford can see behind him anyway in this spray. Probably just the odd glimpse, especially when the car's as close as this. Now then, watch Julian Westwood try and get a good exit here, and can he do it on the run down to Tower?
Yeah, this is where he got very, very close to Nick Adams last time and put him under pressure and then got by on the way into the Jim Clark S's, so perhaps he'll do the same here. Just moving out to have a look. Can't go out there too far because there's a little bit too much standing water, but he got good drive out of here on the last lap.
Now he's trying to accelerate cleanly, but again, Halford has the advantage so far. Can't find a way through, and Halford just sticks to his line and makes it harder for Julian Westwood. Westwood right over the curb there, and we've got a slippery surface flag. Well, I think that's been like that pretty much throughout. I don't know whether somebody's dropped oil as well. A bit wide there, Miles Halford. That will give Westwood perhaps a little opportunity.
Yeah, perhaps. Westwood again good on the power, coming out of sunny out, coming up to the complex now, left-hander into the complex, and he's gone down the inside. Great move from Westwood. Decisive, clean, super stuff.
Yeah, very, very good. You can see Westwood's experience with a move like that. Julian hasn't been racing quite as much in recent years, although he was racing in the Seat Cupra Championship the year before last. Front-wheel drive car. Now he's getting back into a big, powerful rear-wheel drive car and loving every minute of it, I think, out there in these conditions. So he's now into third place. It's still the Morgan leading. Oliver Bryant at the wheel, second place for Andy Britnell, third now. And remember, Julian Westwood started all the way at the back of the field for this race, and he's now in third place.
He's done a great job in that Team Parker racing car, and you see he's quickly caught up Andy Britnell there coming into the chicane, and he was engineering these cars last year for Parker in the Carrera Porsche Cup, but he must be really enjoying his time now back in the driving seat.
Martin Rich will be watching from the pit lane and seeing his teammate going so well and looking forward to getting into that car, I should think. Miles Halford now under pressure there from Nick Adams in the number 15 Ferrari. These two are teammates, so they need to be a little bit wary not to take one another off, but it is Nick Adams gone through, and Halford actually sort of just moving out of the way, letting him go.
Yeah, you can see the indicator flashing there, so whether Miles Halford has a slight problem, I don't know, but no, he indicated right and just let Nick through on the left.
Still in there though, still with a good opportunity. We still haven't quite reached half distance in this race. Second drivers still to take over in most cases, particularly with the leaders. And look at Julian Westwood now, challenging for second place, trying to get past Andy Britnell. And this is where he went into third. He's done it again. That's his favourite overtaking spot.
Yeah, exactly the same as last time. Good run out to sunny out and straight down the inside at the left-hander into the complex. So Westwood up into second.
Well, this is a mighty drive indeed from Julian Westwood, sliding it a bit out of the hairpin, gets the power down. Now, I wonder how much he can close the gap up to race leader Oliver Bryant in the Morgan before they make their pit stops. Interestingly, in comes Andy Britnell. Now he's going to hand over to Chris Stockton.
Yeah, they'll be looking for a clean stop here. Like you said, but not too much pressure on the pit stops. And we'll have to just put a watch on the gap between the leading Morgan and the Porsche in second place there.
You can see, oh, look at that, sliding his way as he comes up towards the chicane, and a bit of a dry line developing, which is he's making the most of. Chris Stockton climbing aboard the number 23 car. Both these guys are former TVR Tuscan racers who've gone on to other things in the British GT Championship, and they make a good team, I think, the two of them together.
Yeah, nice, strong partnership. Andy, of course, competed in the Daytona 24 Hours, and Chris has done a lot of long-distance races in the TVRT 400, so a nice, strong driver pairing.
Nick Adams in the black Ferrari, that was his bumper, remember, that got left over at that section of circuit. But although Miles Holford led him through, a bit wide there, he hasn't really dropped back much from him. He's staying on pretty much the same pace. It's Julian Westwood who, as we've seen, has managed to pull away a little bit. He hasn't made his pit stop. Remember, Andy Britnell has gone into the pit, so that brings Nick Adams there up into third place at the moment before he makes his pit stop to hand over to Marco Attard. And there is our race leader, Oliver Bryant. Solo effort from him. Julian Westwood, is he coming in yet? No, he's not.
No, Julian's staying out for another lap. He's on a real roll. But into the pits, both at the same time by the look of it, the two Z3 BMWs. That's Jan Persson getting out the black car and giving his teammate a bit of a wave. And into the pits from fourth place comes Miles Holford.
Yeah, this has been a brilliant opening stint from the youngster. Jamie Smythe will now take over. Jamie had the accident yesterday. Also coming in is Piers Maserati, the man who started on pole position. He and Dimitri have won the two opening races in the championship, but they're struggling a little bit this time. Now, I wonder if they're going to change tyres on that car. Look like they might be. Also coming into the pits, the number 99 Eurotech car of Steve Wood and Stuart Scott, and that's Stuart now about to take over. Julian Westwood has caught right up to race leader. Look at this. Battle for the lead now between Oliver Bryant in the Morgan, and Julian Westwood is right behind him.
Yes, Ben, Julian's come right away from the back of the grid and to drive past all the cars through the melee of racing that we saw in the sort of early stages of the race. Fantastic stuff.
Very, very impressive, but I don't see any sign of nerves from Oliver Bryant. Just watch him. Is he sliding the car? He's got the indicator on. That might mean, of course, he's making his pit stop now. Let's just take a look here as he comes around the hairpin. Yep, he's tightened the line. Good time to come in. He might as well make the move now into the pits. And remember, he's not handing this car over to anyone else. He's got to sit in the pit lane and wait. Meanwhile, Dimitri Deverikos, the Greek driver who was a star at Donington, he was a star in the first race here at Croft, back out on circuit. Bit of a shake of the head from Piers, though. I don't think he's terribly happy with the way the car was going in these conditions. And here we are now with our new race leader, Julian Westwood.
On board with Julian as he comes to the chicane, and down in the pits there you can see Oliver Bryant climbing out of the Morgan, closing the door, opening the door and climbing back in. Just part of the rules of the British GT Championship if you are driving on your own. And on board with the race leader, Julian Westwood, coming down into Tower. You can clearly see the circuit is starting to dry now, and Dinah's in the pits having a quick chat with Piers Maserati.
Piers, what happened at the start?
We were just going down to the first corner, but I think we both braked too late, and there was standing water, and we both sort of aquaplaned off a little bit. I mean, I think I was a bit luckier than him. I braked a little bit earlier, he braked a bit deeper. But, yeah, but I rejoined in third, but a car, we set it up too stiff. It had no grip at the rear, and the understeer was unbelievable. So I was getting eaten up by everyone, which shouldn't happen. And then the car was coming back to us just then when it was getting drier. So we'll see what happens. We've gambled and gone on inters and see what happens. And, I don't know, just for the championship, needs to get decent points.
And going out of the pits, it is Oliver Bryant, the former race leader, and we'll see where he comes back out. Of course, Julian Westwood still to make his pit stop and hand over to Martin Rich, so Julian is the race leader. Interesting to hear from Piers that they've changed the tyres that they're on that number 9 Porsche.
Yeah, a good admission there from Piers that they had set the car up too stiff, but that may play into their hands now. They've made the gamble and gone to intermediate tyres as the circuit is starting to dry, so it may play into the Tech 9 team's hands, and into the pits comes race leader Julian Westwood.
So Martin Rich will now take over the driving duties for the second part of this race. And Martin, not as experienced as Julian, but a quick driver in his own right, has raced in the Caterham Championships, raced in the Porsche Carrera Cup during 2004, and now he'll have the opportunity to try and protect a podium finish. It came in the lead, remember, but we'll wait to see where it comes out after the pit stops. Nick Adams also making his pit stop to hand over to Marco Attard. Now, there's Oliver Bryant. He's back out on circuit. The question is, where will the others be when he comes round? Will they rejoin in front of him, particularly that number 30 car that was being driven by Julian Westwood? There is Chris Stockton. Now, Stockton in the number 23 car, taken over from Andy Britnell. He's going pretty well. He's putting in some quick laps here. So see where he comes out with regard to people like Martin Rich. There is Martin, just making his way down the pit lane. Very crucial stage of the race. The Morgan's gone past. The Morgan is back in front by the looks of things as Martin Rich just gets back onto circuit. So Oliver Bryant retakes the lead. And there is Julian Westwood.
Just treat it with kid gloves, so don't be too brave on the brakes. Better to brake a bit earlier and a bit more gently than to be a hero on the brakes.
And a bit of guidance from him to Martin Rich, who has got to get used to these conditions, whereas Oliver Bryant's got the advantage of already knowing what it's like. And look at this, Martin Rich under pressure here from Chris Stockton. This is for second. Oh, there's contact.
Yeah, contact between the two cars, and Martin Rich just being pushed by there on the way into Tower. Real firm stuff from Stockton. I don't think it was intentional, Ben, but yeah, the two cars really unfortunate there. And it looks like he's lost another place now to the Ferrari.
Yeah, that's Jamie Smythe going through. The man who's taken over from Miles Holford in that red Ferrari that's been going so quickly throughout the course of this race. Chris Stockton, though, going very hard. Diners with his teammate.
Andy, how did that stint go?
It went very well, yeah, really good first session, and Chris is keeping up the good work, so chuffed to bits with it so far.
Has he just made a mistake out there, then?
I believe so. We just heard on the radio he got fairly adjacent to Martin Rich, I believe. I don't know, I didn't see it.
So it's really difficult conditions, isn't it? Clearly you made the right choice on tyres when you went out for that one.
Yeah, we went out on full wet. By the time the end of March came in, they were getting a bit, would have been intermediates better. We could do with some rain, if I'm honest, but I just think the wet's are getting a bit rooted by now.
There's a good chance you might get one.
Yeah, we've got 20 minutes to go yet, so let's hope for it. Not often I say that.
Well, we will keep an eye on this car, number 23, because Chris Stockton is flying. He's trying to close up that gap to the Morgan of Oliver Bryant, and he's lapping very, very quickly. The question is, will he have enough time, enough grip to do it? You'll have to stay with us to find out, to see whether Chris Stockton can close up on the Morgan and possibly take the win here at Croft. Welcome back to Croft. Oliver Bryant, the star of this race in the Morgan, the 19-year-old, so less experienced than many of the drivers in this championship. But he is under pressure. This car, number 23 in second place, is lapping faster than the race leader. It's gradually closing that gap. We've still got a fair bit of time to go. Track conditions have improved, and Chris Stockton is driving the car flat out. Let's remind you how he took second place.
He just lunged up the inside of Martin Rich there, and Rich really was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Chris had been out on the circuit for a couple of laps. Martin was fresh out the pits, and yeah, no harm meant, I think.
So there is Martin Rich, still hoping to get a good result, despite a little bit of damage to that number 30 car now. But if he can bring it home safely, they'll get some decent points. There is Oliver Bryant, still looking very smooth. Look, doesn't look as though he's flustered at all, despite the fact that his lead is gradually being eroded by Chris Stockton. Jamie Smythe in third, Rich still in fourth, Marco Attard in fifth, Dimitri Taverikos in sixth place in the Tech 9 Porsche. They still seem to be struggling a little bit. Remember, they did switch onto intermediate tyres, but I don't think they're going to take another victory and maintain their 100% record. That's the man we are watching, though. It's Chris Stockton, and he's got tied up here behind Phil Burton in the Ferrari.
Yes, Ben, Phil's Ian Flux's teammate. He's not quite as quick as Ian. He's a lap down from the leaders, so Chris Stockton will be quickly wanting to pass that Ferrari and crack on with catching the Morgan and doing his job at the front of the field.
Yeah, and Phil still not making life easy for Chris Stockton. I think Chris would quite like the door to be open somewhere here. It is a tight circuit, Croft. You need a little bit of cooperation.
Yeah, especially the complex of corners they're coming around at the moment. Sunny in, followed by Sunny out, then the two hairpins that follow each other at the complex, and coming into the oh no, it looked like he'd left the door open, but he hasn't. No, oh, Chris will be fuming inside the Porsche now.
Well, I tell you what, Phil better watch out, because when Chris gets his head down, he can be pretty aggressive. Now he's through on the inside, and Phil Burton doesn't have an awful lot of choice about it. Riding on board inside the Ferrari, and Phil enjoying his move up to British GTs. They just came into it at the end of last year, and certainly making the most of the experience of Ian Flux, who drove the car in the first stint. But there, Chris Stockton flying once again, definitely a bit quicker than the Morgan. Will he have the time, though, to catch the Morgan and perhaps to be able to take the lead? That's what he's aiming to do. He races hard in whatever he's in. He's raced a bit of Formula Ford in the past. He raced Legends for a while.
It doesn't work, does it? You can't anything with it, can you? So
on board with Finnemore and the Marcos.
It's just two-step on the rear.
And they are struggling, I think.
The teeth are falling out down this back straight here.
Great comment. Teeth are falling out on the back straight, so I don't think the setup on that car is quite right at the moment, Rob.
No, the Marcos setup not quite to his liking by the sounds of it.
Just watching the battle for third and fourth. Martin Rich on board with him. He's in fourth. He's trying to get past Stuart Scott. He's a lap down, but not far ahead of Rich there. You can see the Ferrari of Jamie Smythe, who's running in third place. So not a great gap between third and fourth at the moment. Martin had that little incident with Chris Stockton early on, you remember, but he seems to be getting into his rhythm now.
Yeah, I can't help but think that Jamie Smythe might be driving the Ferrari a little tentatively after he had the mechanical failure in the big accident yesterday. The mechanics did a really good job to repair that Ferrari, so it'd be interesting to see how the battle unfolds, Ben.
Yeah, and still conditions not perfect. You still see a lot of spray. As soon as you get close to another car, the spray being thrown onto the windscreen, and that makes life pretty difficult. But Martin Rich keeping himself composed and just trying to close that gap up as gradually as possible. There is Smythe then. And if anything, you know, maybe it's getting a little wetter again, because you can see the camera lens has got more water on it, and definitely conditions taking a turn for the worse.
Yeah, coming down into tower, you can see there's lots of rain on the windscreen of the Porsche there as he goes down the inside of Jamie Smythe to go up a position, but he's always run a little bit wide. Has he managed to keep it? Yeah, he's fine. Oh, no, there's a big impact from behind there.
Where is he going? Where's he going? And right off onto the grass. And look at the two leaders, how close they are. Look where Chris Stockton is in 23, only about 2 or 3 car lengths now behind that Morgan. And the Morgan's got some lapped cars ahead of him that he's got to get past as well. So now the pressure is truly on Oliver Bryant.
It'll be very interesting to see how this battle unfolds, to see how the tyre wear on the two cars has differed. The Morgan...
Oh, look at this, look at this. Stockton's down the inside in traffic. He's taken advantage of Oliver Bryant getting a little bit held up there, and he's through. He's taken the lead. I'm not sure whether Bryant's going to get back at him here. Chris Stockton really using his racer's instincts there to see the opportunity and grab it immediately.
Very much so. Oliver just hesitated for a moment, and you can't afford to do that, and Chris straight through into the lead.
Wow, what a move from Chris Stockton. But Oliver Bryant, you know, a lot of young drivers would have done something a bit rash there, perhaps shut the door at the last minute. He didn't do that.
No, not at all, not at all. He had an awareness of where he was and where the other cars were around him, and a good piece of driving.
So he might have lost the lead, but still very, very impressive he has been throughout this race. And as they pick their way past some of the slower cars, it's still a battle between these two, you know. Bryant has not been dropped by Chris Stockton on this lap.
No, as I was just saying before, the incident we saw there, tyre wear is going to be really interesting, because as Andy Britnell said, with 20 minutes to go in the race, tyre wear was starting to become an issue. So with only a few minutes to go now, it'll be really interesting to see which has got the better tyres, the Porsche or the Morgan.
So it's Porsche, Morgan, Ferrari, Porsche, Ferrari and Porsche. A great mix-up here of the different manufacturers involved. Devericos still down in 6th place, unable to make any progress despite going on to intermediate tyres. We are going to have a different winner. And meanwhile, we've still got some other good racing going on. Martin Rich, despite that moment that he went off onto the grass, he still is on for a good result here. He's in 4th at the moment. Meanwhile, further back, Phil Burton and Hector Lester having a massive dice. There's Hector Lester in the number 21 car, and the Marcos in there, but he's 3 laps down. The 2 Ferraris are 1 lap down, and here comes Phil Burton trying to make the move on Hector Lester.
Coming into the Jim Clark S's side-by-side there, and he's made it on the way out down towards Barcroft. They sneaked through on the way into the Jim Clark S. I was holding my breath for a moment there. 2 incredibly expensive pieces of equipment running within a hair's breadth of each other there for a moment.
It's good to see, isn't it? Such close, hard racing in these very exotic motor cars. There's no doubt that Chris Stockton has managed to ease away, though, from Oliver Bryant. And I don't think that Oliver's going to be able to do too much now about the pace of that Porsche. We're into the closing stages, but Bryant's still holding on to 2nd place. He's got a very clear 2nd place, and if he just holds on to that, it's still going to be a remarkable achievement, driving solo with so little experience compared to so many of the other drivers in this competition. And yet there he is, holding on to 2nd place, not putting a wheel wrong. And we've seen so many people make mistakes throughout the course of this one in very difficult conditions.
Yeah, Croft's a very technical circuit. It's bumpy, it's twisty, and all the cars we've seen have been struggling with visibility problems and the spray and the aquaplaning. So no, it's been really, really difficult for the drivers.
Marco Attard in the black. Oh, the BMW getting well out of the way there. That was some good driving, really, from Rob Barrett to get out of the way of Martin Rich, but you know, Martin Rich is under pressure here from Marco Attard in the Ferrari, and I'm not sure whether Attard's had a decent run out of the hairpin. Maybe we're going to see that Ferrari somewhere around. Yes, there it is. No, he's not quite close enough to make a lunge into the first corner, but Attard right there with Martin Rich.
And we can see that in that battle for fourth place, the damage that the Ferrari had from its trip across the outfield on the exit of the Jim Clark S's before.
Yeah, both of these cars looking slightly the worse for wear. Look, Martin Rich a bit slow there, and it was very easy for Marco Attard.
Yeah, Martin just dropped a wheel onto the dirt coming out of the chicane. Very, very easy to do there. It's very high speed. He just had to back out of the throttle to avoid having a moment, so that made it easy for the Ferrari to go down the inside. And the Porsche struggling there coming out of Tower, coming into the quickest section of the circuit now, and again you can see nothing.
The spray has got worse and worse again, hasn't it? Look at the way it's coming up in plumes off the back of the Ferrari. And Martin Rich just looks as though he's struggling a little bit. He's just got to keep that concentration. These conditions are difficult, there's no doubt about it. It's so easy to make a little mistake. Oh, and off he goes.
Curse of the commentator there, Ben.
Absolutely. He just has been looking that little bit ragged, hasn't he, over the last lap or two?
Certainly conditions have been deteriorating, and not only the 30 car of Team Parker Racing, but the previous race winners of Dimitri Deverikos, who made the change to intermediate. So no, not a great call on the tyres. Really unfortunate.
This car's like a 1950s council house. The roof's leaking.
More running commentary from John Finnemore.
That feature the leak on the roof, the only thing kept me going a bit of rainwater, keep my lips moist.
Well, it's nice to know that these two lads haven't lost their sense of humour despite a rather difficult race. And there is Andy Britnell. He's looking a bit serious because his man is leading this race. They could be on for victory. There's David Bartram, team boss. And what a result this is going to be for the team. Chris Stockton just has to complete this lap and one more for them to take their first win in British GT, and he has driven superbly well. He calls up to race leader Oliver Bryant. Now he's just got to get round this Croft circuit one more time and they'll take victory. Conditions not getting any easier, and he's still got to pick his way through the back markers. Anything could go wrong. He's just got to hope that he keeps it clean all the way. Just went past Gary Eastwood and Brendan Deschamps, also joining into the British GT Championship this weekend. But Chris Stockton head down, going for it.
Great stuff there from Chris as he cut his way through the back markers. They really deserve to do well. Both him and Andy have driven consistently well this weekend.
Yeah, Andy made that mistake in the first race, and I think he was really kicking himself, but no mistakes in the first stint in this race. And then Chris Stockton took over and managed to catch and pass the race leader, just going past the Marcos, which has had a very adventuresome time here at Croft. They won 4 races in the championship last year. I'm sure they'll be right up there again on other occasions. And there's Hector Lester in that number 21 Ferrari. That's not quite so well up this time. They made the wrong tyre choice in the early stages, and so Alan Simonson wasn't able to do as much as we've come to expect from him in that car. But now Chris Stockton just has the final hairpin to negotiate. He's got a comfortable lead over Oliver Bryant, and it's going to be the number 23 Motorbase team car to take victory here at Croft in round 3 of the British GT Championship. Stockton and Andy Britnell take the win, and what a big smile from Andy Britnell and from David Bartram. And Oliver Bryant through there in second place. He brings the Morgan home, but it's the win to the Porsche of Britnell and Stockton. Bryant in second, ahead of Holford and Smythe, with Attard and Adams in fourth, and Rich and Westwood taking fifth.
That was thoroughly enjoyable. Andy did a superb job. We've only driven together twice. We've been quite good friends. I bought my Tuscan car that he used to race in the Tuscan Challenge off Andy, and I've known him through that, really. And he very kindly tried to put a deal together to get this in this series, and we're obviously very, very glad that we came.
And I had a few moments out there with it locking up and sliding, but other than the race, it was a good race, and it's all home, no damage, so it's a good meeting.
Well, keep an eye on that young man for the future. Alan Simonson proved in the first stages of this race just how difficult it was, as did Piers Maserati. But despite Maserati and Deverikos not having their best run of the season so far, they still lead the championship. They brought their car home in 6th place, and that's what you've got to do to win a title. They have an 11-point lead over Britnell and Stockton, but look at that group of drivers who are all tied on 11 points. The GT3 Championship's going to be closely fought all season.
Well, congratulations to Andy and Chris. They're certainly enjoying the celebrations here. Their first win of the season. We'll be back next time at Knock Hill, where it will be GT2 and GT3. Join us for that. Bye-bye.